Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? We're talking about dealing with judgment in everyday life, dealing with judgment in career, dealing with judgment with family, dealing with judgment with friends, dealing judgment with yourself. One of the things that I often think about in this healing journey is the fact that judgment is often displaced everywhere. Right? We face judgment in everything that we do, from the way that we talk to ourselves, most importantly, to the way that we interact and that we show ourselves into the world and the way that that is reflected back to us. One of the most difficult parts about dealing with judgment is that we often look at the judgments that people cast upon us and we take those for face value. And I'll tell you this, I don't know that necessarily people are always wrong in our judgments and in their judgments of us, because sometimes there's some truth, but very often, a lot of times people are, they're just taking what they have inward and putting it outward. And I think about how life is often reciprocated by the way that we think about ourselves in the world. If you think to yourself, I'm successful, I'm capable, I'm strong, then in reality, that'll be true. But if you don't, then in reality, that also will be true. And one of the things about judgment, and I'll tell you this just to keep it real with you, people are judging you anyway. Like, people right now today, they're judging you. They're judging you. They're looking at the way you dress, how you walk, how you talk, the words that come out of your mouth, the way you look. They're judging you because, you're tattooed head to toe. They're judging you because of the accent that you have. They're judging you because of your skin tone. They're judging you because of everything. And here's the thing that people don't want to talk about in this that I think is very important, is that we are often, as the judgees, judging back. If you think about it, how often are you judging people on a daily basis? How often, when you cross paths with someone, you judge what they're wearing or how they're dressed or the car that they get out of or the groceries on the lane in front of you before you check out? I can't believe that they would buy that. Right? How many times have you had that moment? I can't believe that they would buy that. Oh, Jesus, I would never do that. And then suddenly now you're also playing that role of judger in this process. And I think that in part it's human nature. I don't know how we particularly get away from it. I don't know that that is in the cards for us as this species that is predicated on judgment, not necessarily to be callous or crude or unkind, but at some deep down molecular human level, judgment is a form of survival for us. We have to be able to look at and assess situations and especially people for safety. Are we safe right now? Are we safe right now? If we look at this person coming across the street and they're carrying a machete, we're probably not safe. We need to be able to judge and evaluate that situation. We need to look at that and say, okay, actually, in this moment, I'm not actually that safe. I don't feel like I'm protected. Judgment can be this beautiful thing that can also protect you, but also destroy everything around you. And so when you think about that, what I often come to when I'm dealing with whether I'm being judgmental or someone is judging me is to sit with it and pause and just go, acknowledge. Yeah, okay, that happened. I was judging or I was judged. Fine, great. But here's where it gets interesting. What does that have to do with what I'm trying to accomplish in my life? What does that have to do with how I talk to myself? What does that have to do with how I show up in the world? And if we leverage other people's judgments to keep us down, then we certainly will stay there. And I'm not saying that there's not a little bit of truth in judgment, because sometimes there are. I wish, when I go back and I look at my 20s, I wish that I would have had one of my friends be like, dude, you are so overweight, you're going to die by the time you're 30 years old, instead of my body like rejecting myself, rejecting me, I should say, and like getting very sick and forcing me into a situation where I was required to lose weight. Right? I could have used that judgment in that moment, as opposed to me outwardly judging everyone and everything and saying, no, 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 you guys just don't get it. This is who I am. And part of that is also we have to be able to sit within the scope and the framework of acknowledging, like, we might need to create some change in our life. And sometimes that comes from a third party. And I know that can be difficult to hear because we come from this world and society that says we should all be kind to each other. We should never judge each other. We should always let each other exist. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think that works, because then you end up in this situation where you're spending your life hiding from the reality of the truth of the circumstances that you've created. Think about what's happening in all of the social movements in the world right now. Without someone casting judgment and saying this isn't right, things probably wouldn't change. If someone didn't look at the scenario in the world and go, this isn't how it should be, things probably wouldn't change. And we're told, no, be kind. You can be kind and still speak the truth. And I think often in judgment, there is truth. But now, what do you do? This is where it gets interesting, right? Because I'm going to take you to both sides. There's a juxtaposition of this. What do you do when that judgment is not kind, when that judgment is hurtful, when that judgment is berating you, when that judgment is your mom, your dad, your partner, your cousin, your friend, your coworker, yourself? What do you do?